So what would he do? Rabbi Zusha would say, ay, 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 Zusha, what did you do? What did you do, Zusha? You're mechalel Shabbat. Why did you violate the Shabbat? Why? Why you violate Shabbat? You light a cigarette on Shabbat, Zusha? Why? And the guy's hearing this. Like, what, the rabbi is violating Shabbat? Oh, I also smoked a cigarette on Shabbat, and he smoked a cigarette on Shabbat? Ay, 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 Zusha. Then as soon as you heard somebody coming in, you turned off the cigarette. Ay, 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 Zusha, that's another sin. Ay, Zusha, why did you turn off the cigarette? It's another sin. You know how many years you're gonna be in Gehenom for that? Who that happened to me? The guy's thinking, oh, that happened to me. And then after that, Zusha, you thought that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was not watching because your wife was not watching. You thought HaKadosh Baruch Hu was not watching either. So you lied to her and you told her you were going to go out to the synagogue, but you didn't go to the synagogue. You went and you made some sins. You made some sins with some other lady. And you thought that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't watch because your wife doesn't watch. Why did you do that, Zusha? Why did you do that? You know how many years in Gehenom you're going to get burned. You know how many years in Gehenom they're going to rip you up to pieces. Ay, ay, ay. Zusha, why did you do that? And the guy's like, why does he know all this stuff? Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach, shiur Torah, bruchim habayim. Back here on our Sunday night, it's been a while. On our Sunday night, Tzetel Katan, to learn more and more about how to fix ourselves. Tonight's shiur is sponsored by our dear friends Jonas Haley and his dear wife, family, and is going to be for the refuah shlema and hatzlacha rabba for them, and also for Rabbi Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Sarah bat Levana, Avi Mori David ben Esriya, Immorality Doris bat Jora, and all of Am Yisrael and all the righteous Noahides. For those of you that want to support and want to help us continue publicizing the Torah all over the world, you could donate at be'ezrathashem.org, our website, or many other places that we have on YouTube, on Facebook donations, and the website has now many other options that we didn't have before. You could do monthly donations to make it a habit to donate not just by credit card, but you could also donate via Bitcoin. You could donate directly from the bank if you're located in the U.S. It's called ACH. If you want to save yourself the expense as far as if it bothers you that the credit card costs money. Everything costs money, but the ACH is one option that you have now. And of course, you could always wire and send checks and so on, like some of you already do. So with that being said, another reminder for everyone that if you haven't ordered, or even if you have, but there's still more need in your community, you could get the books and the Yetzer posters for free on our Kiruv store at kiruvstore.org. So with that being said, we have the Tzetel Katan, and really the Tzetel Katan has really helped us rewire our brains. For anyone that's been paying attention and has been applying this to their life in any aspect, whether it completely or even partially, this has certainly helped quite a bit, rewire our brain, think correctly, based on not just the teachings of Chassidut and what Chassidut really stands for, but also for anyone that wants to simply be a better person in every aspect. And the Tzetel Katan, based on the teachings of Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhenk, is now going to go a step further, which is finding a friend, finding a rabbi. These are two different things, but many people combine them, as the Mishnah in Masechet Avot in the first chapter, in the sixth Mishnah, has a famous Mishnah. It's also another place that in the Mishnah Masechet Avot talks about finding yourself a rabbi, but the key is Yeshua ben Berachos says, get yourself a rabbi and buy yourself a friend. And Yeshua ben Berachos famously was the rabbi of Jesus. And of course, Jesus was a wicked person that did not listen to his rabbi, did not treat his rabbi the way rabbis are supposed to be treated. But unfortunately, Rabotai, there are many little Jesuses around in the world today that consider themselves religious, consider themselves, going in the right direction, without even realizing that they're literally going in the path of Jesus. And one of the things that we're going to see here is what's the difference, number one, between a rabbi and a friend. Secondly, what kind of friend am I looking for? Usually when people look for friends, they're looking for somebody to party with, somebody to have a barbecue with, somebody to watch the game with, somebody to do business with, all types of other things that people use their friends for. Somebody to borrow money from, say all types of reasons of why people get friends. But I think they want benefits for their friends, and Hashem for those that are thinking otherwise, in other ways to benefit. But the point being is that the Tzetel Katan is telling us now to get ourselves a rabbi, to get ourselves a friend. Now, what is he referring to about getting a friend? I mean, how is the friend of the Tzetel Katan different than the friends that you have right now? Many people sometimes live a certain life where they, especially when they're young, but this sometimes will fall into people that are a little older, in their 20s and even 30s, where they're their perception of happiness is based on who is their friends. They feel like they need to have friends around them all the time. They need to have people to drink coffee with, or to have a beer with, or whatever it is. And Rashi said that if you want friends, read the commentaries in the Torah. Those are the real friends. Why is that a real friend? I mean, you can't have a beer with the Balei Tosfot. You can have a drink or watch the game with Rabbi Akiva. How are those friends? Well, let's see. So Tzetel Katan starts off by saying this: tell your spiritual mentor, or even your trusted friend, all the improper thoughts you have that are against the Holy Torah, which the evil inclination brings to your mind and heart during Torah study and prayer, when you lie in your bed, or in the middle of the day. Don't conceal anything from him out of embarrassment. For by relating and giving voice to these things, you break the power of the evil inclination, making it unable to overcome you to the same degree at a later time. Additionally, you may receive good advice from your friend on how to follow God's way. This is an amazingly effective practice. So already, the Tzetel Katan is telling us that this spiritual mentor, call it the rabbi, or this trusted friend, is very, very much a world of difference from the friends that people are looking for. Because here, this is in essence the same thing of what the Mishnah told us. To get yourself a rabbi, to get yourself a friend, is not referring to somebody to have a good time with, although you're not forbidden from having celebrations, as long as the celebrations are obviously kosher and proper and in still following in the path of God. The key is to know that finding yourself a rabbi or a friend is not for the sake of, oh, I like the way he talks, or I like he has a big house. So, no. This is, in essence, something very, very different. You're looking for a rabbi or a spiritual mentor and a trusted friend that you're going to be able to confide in. Now, of course, this removes the overwhelming majority of people that are in your life from even being a possibility of being that friend, because most people do not want to tell their embarrassing issues to their friends about what they think about when they're alone, or what improper thoughts they had, or nobody wants to share those things. And quite frankly, as one of the great mashgichim told my dear Rav many years ago, probably 25 years ago or so, in today's world, you have to be very careful of who you tell which so-called friend you tell your secrets to, because lest they use that against you, whether it's to publicize it against you or blackmail you or doing anything like that. So a person has to zip it when it comes to the vast majority of their friends and simply not say anything. And that's the reason why the Tzetel Katan, just like the Mishnah in Masechet Avot, connect Rabbi and friend always together, meaning that they have to be in an elevated status. It cannot just be anybody. It has to be somebody, whether it be a rabbi or it be a friend. It has to be somebody that can uplift you closer to the derech of Hashem, closer to the ways of Hashem. And one of the things that caused Yoshke, Jesus Yimach Shemo V'Zichro, to fail and fail miserably, and anyone that wants to know more and more details can watch my lectures about that topic that I've had over the years, the Kabbalistic secrets behind Jesus, or did Jesus hate his rabbi, or different lectures that I've made about this topic over the years. One of the main things that happened with Jesus was the fact that even though he had a rabbi, and even though his rabbi was great, Yeshua ben Perachia was one of the Zugot. This is even before the generation of Rabbi Akiva. Yeshua ben Perachia was one of the great sages of Am Yisrael, but at the same token, Jesus didn't view him that way. He not only treated him as if he is equal to him, but he actually treated him as if he's less than him, where Jesus was looking at the woman that was running the inn that they were staying in, and he thought that she was ugly, and he told his rabbi, "Oh yeah, she's ugly," thinking that the rabbi is also looking at the girl because he has a dirty mind and he's looking at women inappropriately. He thinks that his rabbi is looking at the women inappropriately also. This is unfortunately very common, where people think that their rabbis think the same thing like they do. Because they have dirty minds, they think that since the rabbi is a human being, he probably also has a dirty mind. He probably also thinks like me. If he thinks like you, he's not a rabbi. Needless to say, he's not your rabbi. And if he doesn't think like you, why do you put thoughts in his head? Why do you assume that he's thinking like you? Why do you assume that he even has any concept of these types of thoughts? Because if he is a real Talmid Chacham, if he is somebody that's working on himself on a regular basis, these things don't go into their minds. And that's one of the things that Jesus failed at miserably, where he simply saw his rabbi as an equal. Or perhaps not equal 100%, but close, not too far away. You know, those types of people say, well, yeah, he's smarter than me. He knows more information than me. But at the end of the day, he still puts his pants on one leg at a time just like me. Meaning, in so many words, we're the same thing. It's just that he read a few more books than me. So, in the same here, you have a major failure. The other thing is that he disagreed with his rabbi. And this is even more common, even for those people that say that their rabbis are greater than them. And even if they're not talking about their rabbis, they're talking about the great sages, the great Chachamim of Am Yisrael, whether it be the Rav Ovadias, or the Stiplers, or Rav Elyashiv, or Rabbi Akiva, or Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. It doesn't make a difference who it is. The Rambam. People have the audacity to disagree with Chachamim as if, what's the difference? What's the difference between me disagreeing with the police officer that stopped me saying that I'm speeding when I wasn't, and Rabbi Akiva that says that I'm doing wrong and I don't think I am? In essence, what they're doing is they're minimizing the greatness of the Chachamim that dedicated their life to the Torah, that literally understand things that are beyond human comprehension. And I could just, tell you guys, and I've told you guys in the past, the more you learn Torah, the more frustrated you get by the mentality of the ignoramuses of the world, of how they view Chachamim. Because what ends up happening is you learn more Torah, you learn more complicated issues, and what ends up happening, you start realizing, wait, to me, I'm learning this, and it's extremely complicated, extremely difficult. I'm learning about the Chatzerot, the different aspects of Masechet Yevamot, or different parts of the Torah, Tum'ah and Ta'ara, and to me it's extremely difficult to even understand what's being written here, Yet these Gdolim, to them, it's like they know it like it's the back of their hand. They wrote entire volumes of books about this. They have Paskin Halacha over there, to the extent where they know this so well and explain it so well. And to me, it's difficult and I'm learning it. Yet the person that's criticizing them doesn't even know any part of it, nothing. You ask him, okay, listen, if you have a chatzer and there's a opening on both sides and it's thin, and you want to make it a place where people can go to, but it's not a public, but at the same token, it's not private either. What can you do? And they're going to look to you like, huh? What are you talking about? What do you mean? Why is it open on both ends? Why can't you just go outside? What can I put? Well, if I put a stick at the end and I connect it to the opening, is that going to change anything? And I'm going to tell you, no, other than the fact that you just wasted a few minutes putting a stick there, nothing's going to happen. Yes, exactly. You have no idea what's being talked about. You have no idea what's being talked about here. Why? Because you don't know halacha, you don't know Torah, you don't know anything, but yet you feel you have the ability to disagree with Chachamim. Why? Because perhaps you watched a few videos online, maybe even read a few books, you know a few stories from the Torah that were pretty much literal, that any 5-year-old could know the same thing, and therefore you think you're in the same level of knowledge as the Chachamim. The world of the difference between an average person, even if he learned Torah in yeshiva for 20 years, and Gdolei Israel, is wider than the ocean. But unfortunately, the vast majority of people do not understand this, and Jesus was one of them. And therefore, he felt that he can disagree with his rabbi. He could disagree with his rabbi. Well, listen, the rabbi said this. I don't have to agree. That's the first failure. If you think that there is any room for you to disagree with your rabbi, he is no longer your rabbi. He's no longer your rabbi. Why? Because the Gemara tells us you have to have fear of the rabbi like you fear God. Not that the rabbi is God, but rather because if he is your rabbi, that means he's a Talmid Chacham, that means he's a Torah scholar, he knows what he's doing, that means he's giving you the words of God. He's telling you exactly what God said in A, B, C, in every aspect of your life. And if you don't believe that he's giving you the words of God, then you don't have a rabbi. So the moment a person thinks that they have room to disagree with their rabbi, that's when all hell breaks loose. That's when everything fails. And unfortunately, many times people fail in this particular aspect and they lose. They lose in such a big way that they'll never be able to replace it. They're simply never going to be able to replace it due to the shame, due to the embarrassment, and also due to the ignorance. So the first thing that the Tzetel Katan is telling us here is that you have to actually have somebody in your life that is going to help you do Teshuvah. Because you cannot do it on your own. You can't do it on your own. There's some people that they, since it's much easier to get Torah lectures and books and everything today than other times in the past, then people feel like they can be like an island. They can be by themselves in the middle of nowhere, or even if it's in the middle of a community, but they have their shiurim that they watch, they have their books that they watch, and they feel like they can paskin for themselves, decide for themselves. If they have a question, they ask 5 different rabbis, they choose whichever one they prefer, whichever answer they prefer, and they go shopping. Every time there's a question, they go shopping. And unfortunately, what ends up happening with these people is that they become a bigger problem than they can imagine. Why? Because the world that they create becomes detestable to anyone that's around them, because it's all based on gava. It's all based on ego. So the first thing that the Tzetel Katan is telling us is that you have to have some type of spiritual mentor or trusted friend in your life to help you do Teshuvah. Because if you're not going to have somebody, you're never going to know when to go right, when to go left, when to do something, when not to do it. You're not going to know until after the fact. where sometimes people make decisions and then they have doubts, so then they ask the rabbi. This is not the proper way of doing things. The way to do things is first you ask, then you decide. How do you decide? Based on the answer that you got. Meaning, the one that is more elevated and knowledgeable than you are in the ways of Hashem is in essence going to make the decision for you. He's not going to tell you, do this or don't do this. He's simply going to tell you, allowed, not allowed. Appropriate, inappropriate. Some things are allowed, but not recommended. Some things are allowed and recommended. Some things are forbidden. Some things are, how can you possibly think that way? But if you don't have that kind of relationship with anybody, you can have a very difficult time, if not impossible time, elevating yourself beyond the standard 3 to 5 years Baal Teshuvah. What's the standard 3 to 5 year Baal Teshuvah? You watch some lectures, you're inspired by whoever it is, whether it be myself or it be some other rabbis out there. You like it, you hear the stories, you get some inspired. Maybe you'll start keeping some Shabbat, maybe you'll keep some kosher, but you'll still stay the same behemah that you started with, meaning nothing will actually change. The personality will stay the same, the bad character traits will stay the same, and in fact, they will get worse over time, because just like the Gemara promises that Talmidei Chachamim become sharper over time as they age, the ignoramuses of the world become worse as they age. So you see somebody that started off like a sharp knife, lethal and capable when they first started learning Torah, literally become a danger to society as they grow older without a rabbi, without a spiritual mentor. And they start doing some of the dumbest things you can possibly imagine that even a secular person that never learned Torah wouldn't do. They'll start going to, witchcraft people thinking that it's a spiritual elevation. They'll start doing drugs thinking that's going to elevate their soul to higher levels they can't get through the books. They'll start doing all types of strange things that they wouldn't have done had they stayed secular. And that's why some of the Chachamim even said that some people, it's better off they don't do Teshuvah. Why? Because they get worse. So, the Tzetel Katan is telling us that this spiritual mentor or trusted friend is not really just a recommendation, it's a must-have. Just like air in your lungs is a must-have, this is a must-have. Now, one of the great things that caused Jesus to fall miserably, and in the same case makes many people fall, today is a concept called Bitul. What's Bitul? Levatel tatzmecha, to nullify yourself. Nullify yourself. Now, this means that if I were to ask my rabbi something, then it doesn't matter what the answer is, meaning whether I like it or dislike it, agree with it or disagree with it. Immediately, if I want to go in the derech of Hashem, in the ways of Hashem, immediately, as the question is coming out, as the issue is coming out, I already know whatever he says, that's what I'm doing. And I'm not telling, whatever you do, I'm going to do. No. This is, in essence, a default. Why? Because I am nullifying my opinion, my thoughts, my feelings, my everything else, because I'm going to Deot Torah. You have Deot Torah, I need it, and therefore whatever you say, that's what I'm going to do. And it doesn't matter that I disagree, or that I think I know better, or that I feel different. It's completely irrelevant. Jesus failed at this completely. Why? He refused to be mevatel atzmo. He refused to nullify himself. He felt he was a gibor. He felt that he was all-knowing. He felt he knew better than his rabbi. He felt that there's a better way to do things. There's a better way to say things. There's a better way to communicate. There's a better way this and there's a better way that. And unfortunately, there's a lot of Jesuses out there. And unfortunately, I've had the misfortune of meeting many of them, where they refuse to nullify themselves to anyone they call a rabbi, not just me, to anyone they call a rabbi. Why? Because their ego gets in the way. Their ego does not allow them to nullify themselves. They still feel like, yeah, but I think differently. But I thought this. And they'll even start arguing with Torah sources. Yeah, but what about this? And what about that? And what about this? Now, again, we're not saying that you're not allowed to ask questions. We're not saying that you're not allowed to bring different sources for things that you thought. But there's a difference here. When you're in the process of learning, let's say you're learning the Shas together, or you're learning the Chumash together, or you're learning Halakha together, then there's no problem. You have a question, you have a source, you have a doubt, you have anything. The rabbi is there to explain. The rabbi is there to address each and every issue. Sometimes you'll be right, sometimes you'll be wrong. But the point being is that this is a time for learning. And during a time for learning, this is a time to bring all of the sources under the sun. But when it's time to ask for guidance, time to ask for what to do and what not to do, there is no back and forth. There is, this is what it is. That's the end. Now, if you have questions, no problem. Yeah, but why is it? I thought that this is allowed. No, it's not. It's not. It has nothing to do with it. No, you'll get the explanations. But the answer stays the same, meaning don't think for a moment that just because you brought a source or you brought a question or you brought something, that's going to change the answer. The answer, once it's given, it's done. Why? Because if the rabbi or the spiritual leader is a Torah scholar, that means that he already thought of all the things that you can possibly think of. Now, if you don't think that's possible, that means you do not have emunat chachamim. And when you do not have emunat chachamim, when you do not have faith in the knowledge of our sages, and the commitment of our sages, and the siyata dishmaya of our sages, then unfortunately you're going to have a very, very difficult time in your progress. Sometimes people come to me for guidance and I tell them, listen, the way you're going about it is not the right way. You're trying to convince your wife, let's say, or your husband to do teshuvah, but you're trying to do it like you heard it in the shiur. You heard me yell and scream about a certain issue, and you think that you can do that with your husband and wife. It's not going to work. When I'm speaking to the public, it's one thing. When I speak to the individual, it's something completely different. When you're speaking to your children, it's one thing. When you're speaking to your spouse, it has to become something completely different. If you speak to your spouse the same way you speak to your children or your employees, it's not going to work out. Why? It's a completely different relationship. Now, if a person refuses to change and they think that they can do whatever they want whenever they want, that means that no one can help them. Why? The ego is too big in their life for any truth to seep in. Hence the reason why HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, someone that has a big ego, I cannot be in the same room as him. Even though HaKadosh Baruch Hu, enod bilvado, there's nothing else but him, and he's all-encompassing, and he's in everywhere, he says, I can't be in the same room as this person that has a big ego. Not because Hashem has limitations, chas v'shalom, but rather because he won't let me in. Even if I'm standing right in front of him, he will not acknowledge it. Why? His ego is in the way. Her ego is in the way. And she will not be receptive to what Da'at Torah is. So, when Rabbi Elimelech tells us, find yourself a spiritual mentor, a trusted friend, to tell all of your improper thoughts that are against the Holy Torah, he's not just talking about your best friend from high school or just somebody that lives on the same block as you. He's talking about finding somebody that is elevated above and beyond where you are willing to nullify yourself to that person. Meaning, whatever they say, that's what I do. And if you say, well, I haven't found anybody like that, then the problem is usually with you rather than with people. Why? Because there's plenty of people that are greater than you. And if you don't think that, either you live in the middle of a zoo, or you are the zoo. There's no way that there's no greater people than you if you live in a Jewish community with Torah scholars. And needless to say, today with the internet and readily available Talmidei Chachamim from all over the world that are willing and able to help, you still can't find somebody. Either you live in a zoo or you are the zoo. And usually it's the latter. Why? Because people are not willing to nullify themselves. So now, when a person thinks about this, and their ego gets in the way, and they say, well, why should I nullify myself? He learns and I learn. He does and I do. I'm a good person. Okay, I'm willing to listen to him, but why do I have to nullify myself? Why do I have to limit myself? Why do I have to shut myself up? Because you do it anyway. In other places. How so? When you go to the doctor, anyone that's old enough has been to the doctor. And what do you go when you go to the doctor? The first thing, without even realizing it, you subconsciously nullify yourself. Already assuming the doctor knows better than you, based on his credentials, based on his profession, based on his experience. Same thing you do with a lawyer, same thing you do with any expert. So when you walk into the office, doesn't matter if you are a billionaire, or you're a millionaire, or you're this, or that, doesn't make a difference. As soon as you go, you sit on the same little bench that is not really appropriate for sitting on, more like laying on, but nonetheless you sit there, and you tell them all your problems. Yeah, well, my shoulder hurt, but then on Tuesday, I don't know what happened, my leg started hurting. And then, when my wife yelled at me, then my foot started hurting. And then, why are you telling them all these things? Why are you telling them all these things? Because you're nullifying yourself, and in essence, you're giving him all of the information. And of course, there's much more embarrassing information that you're going to tell him also, that other places hurt, that other things happened, that other performances weren't able to perform, without any qualms about it, without any issues about it. You're going to have no problem whatsoever telling the doctor all of your embarrassing things. You're going to have no problem telling the lawyer all of the embarrassing things. Yeah, I had the secretary, and then we made a wire transfer, but then we found out that really it wasn't allowed, and then we took, and then we this, but can you defend this anyway? But can you do this? And you can tell them all the different things. Why? Because you already know that if you don't tell this doctor, or lawyer, or whatever it is, all the details, you're tying their hands and making them incapable of helping you. So when you go to the doctor, when you go to the lawyer, when you go to all the other things, you have to nullify yourself in order to get the help that you need. And you have no problem doing it. People generally do not have a problem communicating with their doctors or lawyers or whatever other professional. But when it comes to a Talmid Chacham, when it comes to a Torah scholar, that's usually when the problem comes in. Why? People are willing to tell some of the secrets, so long as it does not make them look too bad, but even more so long as the rabbi is going to tell them what they want to hear. But the minute that they get something from the rabbi they don't want to hear, oh, you offended me. Oh, I can't believe you said that. Oh, my wife is upset at you now. Oh, my this, my that. Wife is upset at me. Who asked you about whether your wife is upset or not upset? You asked me a question. I gave you an answer. Whether your wife is upset or not upset, or you're upset or not upset, that's your problem. It's not my problem. My problem is to make sure that I have the time and the ability and the knowledge to answer and address your issues. My problem is not your emotional roller coaster. That's not my problem. Oh no, we're gonna find a different rabbi. Chavod, go. Thank you very much. You've relieved me from this burden. People do not understand where they stand. And what ends up happening is they make a series of bad choices because their ego is in the way. And they're not willing to nullify themselves. This is the unfortunate mistake that caused Jesus to get as bad as he was. It wasn't just that he saw his rabbi in the same level. It wasn't just that he doubted his rabbi. But worse than all, he wasn't willing to be mevatel. He wasn't willing to nullify himself. And the moment you are that person, do not see yourself anything different than a little Jesus, just in the making. Perhaps you're not going to have as much of a damaging effect on the world as he did, but for sure, you could already bet more than you're betting on the Super Bowl and all the other stupid things that people bet on, that you're going to have a damage on your life and on the people around you. Why? A person that's not willing to nullify themselves to Torah scholars is simply a Jesus in the making. That's all it is. That's who he was. That's the damage that came. This is what's happening in the world today. Many people are simply not willing to nullify themselves. On the other hand, they'll view, oh wow, look at this guy, he's such a tzaddik. Look at that guy, he's such a tzaddik. You know what? If these people that you view are real tzaddikim, do you know what they all have in common? They all nullify themselves in front of the rabbis. And not just their rabbi, any Torah scholar. Any Torah scholar. Why? Because the appreciation for Torah has no limits. This is why some of the great Chachamim, when their children would come home, they would ask them, they would give them kisses on their heads and ask them for blessings or give them all types of treats. Why? They learned Torah. This precious little gem that's my child just learned Torah. Wow, Baruch Hashem. When their kids answered a question or gave a story, they appreciated it no different than as if Rav Ovadia himself came back from Gan Eden, told a story and went back. Why? Because they understood this is the word of Hashem. This child just gave the word of Hashem. So the appreciation for Torah scholars, people that have dedicated 20, 30, 40, 50, 70 years to the Torah, obviously grows much more than a child. And when a person does not have an understanding of this, then unfortunately they're going to have a very, very difficult life, because they're not going to be able to solve their problems with the Torah, because Torah is a tool for people to solve any problem that they have, live a successful and happy life, extraordinary marriage, happiness with their kids, satisfaction, all the good things that you could possibly, a blessed life. So long as you are willing to put your head down and know, Da'at Torah, that's the final opinion. There is no other opinion. And as long as you don't have that in your life, unfortunately, it's very, very difficult to progress, as the Tzetel Katan is explaining here, where he's telling us that this spiritual mentor and trusted friend is a person that you are going to confide in and tell all of your improper thoughts to that are against the Torah, that you thought about getting into some inappropriate business, whether it be the evil cash advance business that unfortunately is spreading like cancer in Israel, in America, all over the world. All types of people that have zero credibility are vouching for it as if they have credibility. I've even heard phone calls, training phone calls from these people of how they train their staff. Literally, from the beginning, even if you exclude the actual illegality and corruption of the business itself. Let's just say they were selling lollipops or they're selling Q-tips to hotel chains. Doesn't matter. The conversation, the sales conversation or the training conversation to their own staff that are just processing loans is a lie from the beginning of the call until the end. Literally compulsive, disgusting liars. And this is growing like wildfire. People are going into this business, and now there's even another Amalek force that is empowering them further. They're going into what's called debt settlements. Some of them are opening debt settlements and debt consolidation, all types of so-called debt services, but again, another problematic business that's full of corruption. they're going under the same umbrella of the cash advance companies. Some are opening a second company as if to make them two different umbrellas. When one fails, the other one will back up the other one. The point being is, Rabotai Karim, the horrific corruption is growing. And why is it growing? Because they're able to recruit more innocent, naive, gullible, and greedy people to work for them. When you answer one of those ads that they have in the WhatsApp groups or on the internet to get a job with high commissions and so on, and you're interested, even after you found out it's cash advance and you know that it's not allowed, that means that the corruption is not just with them. It's in your neshama. And you're starting to argue, wait, but maybe it's allowed because it's this and because it's that. You're not understanding. Torah says it's forbidden. Torah says it's forbidden. And I've told you guys once, and I've told you guys twice, and I've said it 1,000,000 times if I have to. Any Chacham that has the knowledge and the goal to dispute it, let them write an answer, a real Teshuvah, disputing what we have in the Sefer by our own dear Rabbi Frimer of Bedin, that shows how illegal this business is and against the Torah. Let them write a real Teshuvah. Not just say, no, it's allowed, they're just not understanding. Let them write a Teshuvah. Nobody in the world is going to be able to write a Teshuvah. And no person that's allowing it truly understands how predatory lending is destroying the world and how it's literally empowering Amalek. But merchant cash advance business and all other types of corrupt businesses are growing around the world, including the Jewish community. Not just in the Jewish community, including in the Jewish community. Because corruption is all over the world. Doesn't matter where you go. Any business is corruption. But this cancer, unfortunately, is something people still ask about, even though they already have the answer. Why? The greed. The greed that they have is beyond comprehension. And they're not willing to nullify themselves to Torah. So, Rabbi Elimelech is saying, you have to find yourself a spiritual mentor, a trusted friend, that you're going to tell about all these improper thoughts. Oh, I'm thinking about, going into this horrible business that's forbidden. Oh, I'm thinking about stealing from my customers. Oh, I'm thinking about cheating on my wife or husband. You know how many cases, how many horrible cases come into a Beit Din? In the old days, you read the stories, you read the poskim, you see what kind of people came to the Beit Din. They came with all types of questions. Some were the questions of marriage and adultery and all types of horrible things. But some of them were legitimate questions about, what do I do if I have this type of business transaction that went wrong? What do I do if this happened to my house and I need to make sure that I'm allowed to carry outside of the house, the Iruv issues, the Chatzerot, all types of people will come with legitimate questions. Today, people come to the Beit Din for two issues. And I've heard this from a Dayan. They come for a money or znut. Either money or immorality. Either they come for, there's a money problem or there's an immorality problem. Somebody cheated on somebody else. That's it. Every day, that's the thing. It's unbelievable. Mazon or zonot. That's how he called it. That's literally the words he used. Now, when you have day after day people coming to a Beit Din for these issues, it gives you an understanding of what we're dealing with. This means that you have never actually made yourself a friend, made yourself a rabbi that's going to guide you along the way before it got to the problem of mazon or zonot. You didn't get there. If you had somebody, you would have never gone that far. You would have never cheated on your wife or husband. You would have never stolen in your business. You would have never gotten into that business in the first place because you knew it's corruption. If you would have asked a rabbi whether you're allowed to do X, Y, Z in your business, he would have told you no. But because you did not have it, now you're in a problem. So, the Tzetel Katan is telling us you have to have somebody to tell them about all the things that you think about that are against the Holy Torah, all the things that the evil inclination brings to your mind and heart, even during the time where you're studying Torah, even during the times where you lie in bed or you're praying. And don't conceal anything from him out of embarrassment. Now, one of the things that Rav Shalom Shvadron, Alav Shalom, had as is a masoret, a tradition that he learned from his rabbis, is that anytime he would give a shiur, it would be of a specific subject. But if some other idea or story popped in his mind while he was speaking, the tradition was, say it. Yeah, but it doesn't have anything to do with what you're talking about. Doesn't matter. The tradition is, if Hashem put this thought in your mind during the shiur, that means this is for somebody. And he tells a story where there was one time, he was given a shiur about a tzniut, modesty, and so on. And all of a sudden, in the middle of his shiur, he had a thought about eating kosher. And he started talking about how important it is to eat kosher, and now he's talking about to a bunch of Haredim, he's talking about the religious people. These are not people that have a problem with kashrut. Not like today that everybody thinks that, either everything is allowed or everything is forbidden. It's the greatest thing in the world. If you watch the internet, you think everything is forbidden. Because you watched a bunch of videos where there's a bunch of people with microscopes and everything is not allowed, or perhaps all the shochtim, all of the slaughterers are corrupt, there's no such thing as kosher meat, and all this other nonsense that people have. Or the opposite, where you think everything is allowed, no matter what the kashrut is. Just simply, if it says anything on it remotely close to kosher, even if it says bosher, tosher, something, any share, it's sharing revenues with a different company. You'll share, okay, you'll eat it. Like a dog. So, the person does not have Da'at Torah, not going to know what to do. They're going to eat everything or not eat anything, thinking that they're righteous. But here, in the story, which I believe is written in a book called the Magid, which was written by Rav Pesach Kron, Shichyeh. He says that Rav Shvadron was giving a shiur about some subject, I think it was modesty, and all of a sudden, he starts talking about kashrut, how important it is to eat kosher, and how it destroys the neshama if you don't eat kosher, and how if you don't eat kosher, you're not going to be able to understand Torah, you're not going to be able to have your prayers heard, and all types of horrible things. Now, of course, the crowd has no idea why the rabbi just made a huge segue from modesty to kosher. But they're there. They're not going to tell the rabbi what to say. After that lecture, everybody was leaving. There was one guy, new guy, that came up to the rabbi and told him, "Thank you very much for what you said." "Oh, sure. What did I say?" "No, what you said about kosher and everything." What happens? This guy left the derech several years before, but for whatever reason he decided that he wanted to hear some divrei Torah that day. He hasn't even eaten kosher in years. And he said, you know what, let me just walk into anywhere that I can find. He walks into one place, that's where Rav Shvadron was speaking, and as soon as he came in, Rav Shvadron changed the entire shiur to the topic of kosher, which was the perfect cure for that person's neshama at that point. The same with another story that was just publicized last week. You know, Baruch Hashem, we've been giving shiurim for about a decade now. Many shiurim, thousands of people have done Teshuvah. But the vast majority of people, I don't know who they are. Some people contact me, ask questions. Some people donate. Some people send emails. Some people I never heard of. because they're all over the world. Baruch Hashem, we're all over the world. But about a month ago, a shatchanit that I know sends me a video of a young man, frum, bachur yeshiva, looks like a precious neshama, and then I hear him talk. He is in Israel, but he's originally from Germany. Grew up in Germany, lived in Germany, his whole life. Completely secular, keeping absolutely nothing. No different than Carlos next door. No different than Muhammad down the street. He was living whatever the heart desires, the heart should get. Now, of course, out of all the shurim that I've ever done, usually I would think something that would inspire somebody to change their life, to change their ways, perhaps would be my personal story. We've, it's an inspiring story, has to do with a lot of different subjects, whether it's the ambition for money, issues with intermarriage, issues with health, issues with emunah, all types of things. It's a very good story that it's reached millions and millions of views already in different languages. Perhaps it's going to be some of the lectures that we spoke about, based on the teachings of Elchanan Wasserman, or the teachings about Gehenom, or all types of other things. That's what I would think logically would inspire a soul to change a life that is completely disassociated from Judaism. Needless to say, in Germany. But no. Out of one of the shurim that I did, maybe 10 years ago, 9 years ago, I was invited to Los Angeles to do some lectures over there. And they invited me to a little yeshiva, bunch of young kids, teenagers, to speak one night. And after I told the kids parts of my story and so on, they started asking some questions. And one of the questions they asked about is about the stock market versus gambling and so on. Okay, so I answered the question. We made a clip out of it, I don't know how many years ago, of this little segment of the shiur, and we publicized it. It's certainly not one of the top clips that we have that got tens of thousands of views. I don't even know if it got a couple thousand views. But you know what? One of those views made a young, precious neshama completely lost in Amalek town of Germany spark up and say, wow, if Judaism has an answer even for something like this, it must have answers for everything. And he started binging on my lectures, watching one lecture after another, and before you know it, this young bachur decided, not only am I changing my life, I'm going to yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael. And he picked himself up, and he went to Eretz Yisrael to go learn Torah, and he's still there now, Baruch Hashem. Who would have thought that particular clip, talking about gambling versus stock market, what's the difference, what's the similarities, who would have thought that would spark up a neshama, needless to say, in Germany? But that's what happened. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides what's yours and what's not. What's going to work and what's not. What every neshama need and what it doesn't. And if a person does not nullify themselves to a Talmid Chacham, to Deot Torah, for sure they're not going to nullify themselves before HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yishtabach Shemo La'ad. Why? You can have questions and doubts about Hashem every other day. So that's why the Tzetel Katan is telling us and harping on this issue, a whole segment on this issue. You have to have a spiritual mentor, a trusted friend to tell all of your improper thoughts, all of the things that the evil inclination, the Yetzer, the Satan, the Malach HaMavet brings to your mind. And don't conceal anything. Because you don't know which part of the things that you say also open up the gates to the solution. You think that the problem is X, and therefore you're only going to talk about X. But who says that's the problem? You decided that's the problem, but maybe that's not the problem. One woman asks me, Rabbi, my husband, he decided that he wants to get some guidance, but not from a rabbi. He's going to go to some fortune teller because she's known to know the future and know the source of his soul. Is this even allowed? Because somebody that calls himself a rabbi told him that he should go there. I said that they both have the same problem. The person that told them, regardless of whether they call themselves a rabbi or not, and their person, what? They have an ego. That's the problem. It's not, the problem is not the witch, which the Torah says, Machshefa lo techayeh, that there's no such thing as even going to them, needless to say, to even allow them to live at a time of the Sanhedrin. They would kill these people. The problem is ego. Why? They're not willing to nullify themselves in front of Torah that tells them what to do. So they want to go to something exotic, something outside, something that no one else has seen before. It's ego. Ego is the reason of why he's going there. It has nothing to do with him wanting to spiritually elevate himself. It has nothing to do with it. It's simply ego. It's all ego. And if you have ego, you're not going to get anywhere far. Or you're going to get into the wall and run into it over and over again, smashing your head over and over again, just like the fools that keep asking the same questions on the thread because they haven't investigated themselves. They haven't investigated what their own questions. So now, Rabotai, a chaver cannot be another person that's just like you. Meaning, if you're a Baal Teshuvah, convert, or even if you're frum from birth, but you're struggling with different things, you're not exactly the biggest tzaddik yet. You're not the biggest tzaddikah yet. You're struggling with things. If you're going to have a chaver, if you're going to have a friend, it cannot be somebody that's on your same level. Why? This is like if somebody's stuck in the mud. They're in the mud, they're in quicksand. In quicksand, anyone that knows about it, quicksand, you sink. You stand on the sand and you start sinking. The more you move, the more you sink. Until the entire person, or even elephant, can sink into the sand. Now, obviously, you need somebody to pull you out. Can't get yourself out of it. You need somebody to pull you out. Now, if you weigh 200 pounds, and your friend also weighs 200 pounds, it's usually not a good idea. Needless to say, if your friend weighs 100 pounds. Why? Because it's more likely that both of you end up in the mud, both of you end up in the quicksand, than both of you are out of it. You need somebody much stronger than you to uplift you. And that's what happens a lot of times. People confide with people that are just like them. He's going to tell all of his secrets, all of his failures, all of his issues to who? To his boys. She's going to tell her girls. Oh, I had a coffee with my girlfriend and we talked and she said that my husband was wrong about such and such. Is she married? No, she's divorced. So what does she know about marriage? Well, she used to be married. Well, obviously she's not good at it if she's divorced. How are you going to get marriage advice from somebody who's divorced? It's like asking financial advice from somebody that's homeless. I never understood it. Never understood people. You get advice from people that are homeless? Why? If you want to know how to be homeless, ask the homeless person. You want to know how to get divorced, ask somebody that's divorced. But if you want to ask marriage advice, you want to ask financial advice, you want to ask any type of advice, you have to ask somebody that is extremely successful, much more successful than you are. You cannot even ask somebody that's just like you. Why? They're making mistakes and lack of knowledge just like you. They have the same mistakes. They have the same limited knowledge. Even if they sound good and they sound like they have good ideas and they're willing to talk to you about this or that, the reality is, Rabotai, having a chaver, having a friend, a real friend, means it's somebody better than you, smarter than you, more knowledgeable than you, specifically about Torah. Now, of course, if you can ask them about other things, they should be better than you about those things as well. Now, one of the issues, as we mentioned before, is ego. And this is not an invention, but rather an halacha. The Rambam writes about it. In Hilchot Deot, chapter 2, first halacha. He compares the flaws in morality, in ethics, in character traits to a physical ailment. And he says, to those who are physically ill, physically sick, the bitter tastes sweet, and the sweet tastes bitter. Some of the sick even desire and crave that which does not fit to eat, such as earth or charcoal, and hate healthy foods, such as bread and meat, all depending on how serious the sickness is. The guy is sick, she's sick. Okay, maybe I give you something to drink, some orange juice, maybe I give you some water. No, I want some mud. Huh? Mud, give me some mud. Why would you do it mud? I want to eat it. Obviously, this is a person that's crazy. That's what happens. Similarly, says the Rambam, 800 years ago, those who are morally ill desire and love bad traits, hate the good path, and are lazy to follow the good path. Depending on how sick they are, they find it exceedingly burdensome. You tell the guy, listen, you are not exactly the greatest husband. You are not exactly the greatest wife. How do we know? You just got divorced. You can't be that good of a husband or a wife if you got divorced after only 2-3 years of marriage. Something went wrong. So why not be more careful with who you pick and what you do and how you behave? No, I don't feel like it. Listen, I am who I am. They have to accept me like I am. Oh, I am. What, you think you're God? They'll accept you as you are, that's it? Okay, stay alone. Oh, Rabbi, I'm looking for a shidduch. Okay, fine, no problem. Looking for a shidduch, want to get somebody married, no problem. Listen, what about this woman? She's also looking for a shidduch. No, Rabbi, she's not good looking. What's wrong with her? Her ears are over there, her eyes are over there, her mouth is over there. She keeps Torah and mitzvah. What's the problem? No, I don't know. I'm not attracted. Okay, Miserably. Listen, you have to be attracted to somebody. If you find them disgusting, you can't marry them. No problem. What about this one? No, this one. No, this one. Okay, what about this one? Before you know it, you start realizing it's not the people. It cannot be possibly true that everyone is unattractive. Oh, Rabbi, I really don't want a blonde. I want a brunette. I don't want a brunette. I want a blonde. Can be short, can be tall, can be this. Oh, what do you think you are, Melech HaYofi? What do you think you are, the Prince of Beauty? People are so picky with who they want, and he has to be this tall and this short and this amount of money and that type of family and this type of tradition, that type of tradition. Oh, Habibi, you're almost a senior citizen. You're 40 years old already. Even if she's homeless in the street and willing to marry you, you should marry her by now. You still have the audacity to be picky? You're a senior citizen. Before you know it, you're going to be walking with a stick. You're still picky. Somebody's even willing to consider you, and you have the audacity to be picky? Unfortunately, Rabotai, spiritually sick people. You tell them, listen, you have to stop. You want to get married? you have to lower your standards. Yeah, but Rabbi, I don't want to be with somebody ugly. Nobody told you to be with somebody ugly. But you're looking for some filth that you saw on TV. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for something that doesn't exist in the kosher holy world. You're looking for filth. You're looking to turn some zonah into a tzadikah. It's not going to happen. This is not Rachav, Habibi. You're not going to find Rachav. One of a kind. 3,300 years ago. The end. You want to find somebody to build a Beit Ne'eman B'Yisrael? Lower your standards. Stop being so picky. Now again, no one's telling to go and marry somebody ugly, somebody with a missing arms and legs, somebody with some gibenet, some thing coming out of their back. No, nobody's telling to go and marry some crip. I'm not telling you that. What I'm telling you is, stop being so picky. Number one, because you have tainted your mind, and therefore your standards are higher than reality. Number two, by the way, you're not exactly Melech HaYofi. I actually asked somebody this. Somebody came to me, nice young boy, maybe 20, 25 years old, however he is. Says, Rabbi, I want to get married. Okay, I went on a shidduch with this girl. She's really nice. Okay, good. She's religious. Good. Okay, everything's good. But she's only pretty, Rabbi. So what's the problem? If she's pretty, she's this, she's that. What's the problem? No, she's just pretty, but she's not like beautiful. So I asked him, are you beautiful? Now again, when you ask another man that's mature, if you're beautiful, the default answer is, now come on, I'm a guy. What beautiful? I'm a guy. Unless you're Yosef HaTzadik, you're Rabbi Yochanan, what beautiful? What beautiful? You wake up with sounds, you go to sleep with sounds. There's nothing beautiful about a guy. But this kid answered me, yeah, you know what? I am. I couldn't believe my ears. You spend way too much time in front of the mirror, Habibi. And I can assure you that you probably haven't fixed your brit. Why? You think you're beautiful? You're spending too much time looking at yourself. If your husband spends as much time in front of the mirror as you do, most likely it's not going to last. Why? He thinks he's too beautiful. It's a problem. A man is not supposed to look at himself. Needless to say, to find himself beautiful. This makes a problem for the women. Why women become self-conscious when their husbands think of themselves as beautiful. And I've met a few of those people where the husband literally grooms himself. He goes manicure, pedicure, a haircut once a week. What are you, Kohen Gadol? Once a week haircut, manicure, pedicure, suntan, this tan, Hashem Yishmael v'Yatzil. Go spend all that extra on your wife or your kids or your brain or something else. You know why you're doing that? Because you're an adulterer. Either in the making or already making. Spiritually sick. You tell people you have to change. Stop acting that way. No, come on, this is what it is. This is what I'm used to. Same concept with every other type of character trait flaw. You tell people they have to stop. They have to swallow their pride, nullify themselves, relax, be patient, whatever it is. As the Rambam says, it's not just they have bad traits, but rather they love bad traits. They hate the good path, and they're lazy to follow the good path. All depending on how sick they are, they find it exceedingly burdensome. Rabbi, really, you have to do all that stuff? As the prophet Isaiah says in chapter 5, verse number 20, says the Rambam, who speaks about such people in a manner where it says, woe to those who call the bad good, and the good bad, who take darkness to be light, and light to be darkness, who take bitter to be sweet, and sweet to be bitter. Concerning them, says Shlomo HaMelech, Proverbs chapter 2, verse 13, those who leave the upright paths to walk in the ways of darkness. And then says the Rambam, what is the remedy for this morally ill person, whether it be male or female? They should go to the wise, to the Chachamim, for they are the healers of the souls. They will heal them by teaching them how to acquire proper traits until they return them to the good path. This last part is the ultimate key, that is the solution, but also the problem for most people. The Rambam paskins la'alacha, meaning this is no different than gravity. This is no different than all of the physical laws of nature that Hashem instilled into the world. This is reality. If you are a morally sick person, you need a cure. The cure is available at the hands and the mouth of the Chachamim. Go to them because they're the healers of the souls. You don't want to go to them, or you go to them but you don't nullify yourself, that means that you're still sick and you're not willing to heal yourself. The solution and the cure is still the same as it was 3,000 years ago, 800 years ago, or yesterday. But then there's people that refuse. They refuse the cure. What does the Rambam has to say about them? Concerning those who recognize their bad traits and do not go to the wise to heal them. Shlomo HaMelech says about them in Proverbs chapter 1 verse 7, fools scorned wisdom and correction. This, Rabotai, is clear, simple words of the living God. This is Torah. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us. He gave us the Torah in this week's parasha, Parashat Yitro. Even Yitro HaGadol, Yitro HaTzadik, who used to be a pope, used to be an idol worshiper. When he heard the greatness of the Torah, the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the greatness, Vayishma Yitro, he changed everything. Doesn't care about money anymore, loses everything, doesn't make a difference. I need to be a Jew. I need to do everything possible to go over there. Yeah, but it's in the middle of the desert, it's dangerous. Doesn't matter. Yeah, but people may kill you. Doesn't matter. But you're abandoning everything. Doesn't matter. I'm going. Why? Why are you going? Because I know that Moshe Rabbeinu has the truth. Yeah, but how do you know he's the right leader? Says the Torah, Rabotai Yekarim, Vayikach Yitro, Choten Moshe et Tzipora, Eshet Moshe, Achar Shiluchea. The Yitro takes Moshe Rabbeinu's wife, Tzipora, because Moshe Rabbeinu sent her away. Ve'et Shnei Banea, Asher Shem HaEchad Gershom, Ki Amar Ger Hayiti Be'eretz Nochriya. And then the Torah says, and he also took with him the children, 2 sons. One of his name is Gershom. Why was his name Gershom? Because Moshe says, I was a sojourner in a strange land. And the other one is Eliezer. Why? Because God of my father came for my aid, and he saved me from the sword of Paro. Now, with all due respect to Yitro, what does it have to do with anything? You're going to Moshe Rabbeinu, you're bringing his wife and kids. What are you reminding him? Oh, it's Moshe, and he has kids, and you know why his name is kids Gershom? Because he was a sojourner, and then God helped him. What does that have to do with anything? You either want to be a Jew, you don't want to be a Jew. He goes, no, you don't understand. I'm going to the leader, I'm going to Moshe Rabbeinu, because Moshe Rabbeinu, since the day that I know him, Moshe Rabbeinu treated this world as if he's simply visiting. He's a sojourner in this world. Whether he was in Egypt, or he was in Midian, or he was in Ethiopia, or wherever he was. Kush is Ethiopia. Wherever he was, Moshe Rabbeinu treated this world as temporary. He didn't live for this world. And Moshe Rabbeinu got to where he was because HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yishtabach Shimo La'ad helped him. because he nullified himself, because he wasn't living for this world, he was looking for the truth wherever he went. Somebody like that, I'll go find him in the middle of the desert if I have to. Why? That's the leader I want. That's the leader I want. I want somebody that's willing to go into the desert to go find a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and I'm willing to go after him no matter what he says, no matter if he wants or doesn't want. I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm going to buy it at any price. When a person understands that they have a Chacham, the Gemara tells us, the Zohar Kadosh tells us, Chachamim tell us, pay any price to have a Chacham in your life. Pay any price. It doesn't matter what the limit is. To have a Chacham in your life, to have somebody that has Da'at Torah in your life is priceless. Yitro v'yishma Yitro. Yitro says, I had everything. I had millions, I had billions, I had everything, but now I have a Chacham. I'm giving up everything just for the Chacham. I'm giving up everything just for the Chacham. That's all that matters. And people throw the Chachamim into the garbage today as if they're in abundance. Why? Because they're fools. Because they're spiritually sick and they don't even know it. And that's the problem. Now, a person says, yeah, but what if I need a different cure? Says the Rambam in the next halakha in Deot. How are these people going to be healed? We tell them the wrathful man to train himself, to feel no reaction, even if he's beaten and cursed. He should follow this course of behavior for a long time until the anger is uprooted from his heart. The man that's full of pride should cause himself experience much disgrace. He should sit in the lowliest of places, dressed in tattered rags, which shame the wearer, and the like, until the arrogance is uprooted from his heart, and he returns to the middle path, which is the proper path. When he returns to the middle path, he should walk in it for the rest of his life. And one should take a similar course with each of the other traits. A person who's swayed in the direction of one of the extremes should move in the direction of the opposite extreme and accustom himself to that for a long time until he has returned to the proper path, which is the midpoint for each and every temperament. In so many words, the Rambam says, you want to fix that spiritual ailment. You want to fix that spiritual deformity that causes you to go against the Kadosh Baruch Hu. One path. Listen to Musar, get Da'at Torah, nullify yourself, remove the ego from your life, remove it. Nullify yourself, stop pretending to be humble, stop pretending to be anything that you're not. Why? It's not going to help you. In Shamayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows what's the truth. He knows if you're a liar or not. Now, unless you have that spiritual mentor, that good friend that's much higher than you, that you're willing to be a mevatel in front of him or her, how are you going to get there? How do you even know that you need to get there? And that's why the Rambam says, you have a problem and you don't realize how bad it is. Hence the reason why I'm telling you the solution is to listen to Musar and to listen to Da'at Torah in the opposite extreme. Opposite extreme. Why? Because your sickness is much worse than you think. You still do not know the value of Da'at Torah. You still do not know that you're not as great as what you think you are. Hence the reason why you have to go to the opposite extreme until you arrive in the middle path. If your sickness was small, you wouldn't need an extreme treatment. Somebody comes to the doctor with a headache, they don't give him a cancer medicine. They don't give him cancer medicine. He has a headache, give him an Advil. Give him something else. Somebody comes with a toothache, they don't remove all of his teeth. They fix one tooth. The Rambam says if you're spiritually sick, you do not have the ability to judge how sick you are. Hence the reason why your cure has to be extreme. The absolute extreme. Why? To get you to the middle path. Because if we gave you medicine that you think Not only will you not get to the middle path, you may even get worse. And therefore, Rabotai, the Tzeti Katan says, don't conceal anything from him out of embarrassment. Why out of embarrassment? Because the Gemara in Masechet Berachos says, in page 12b, a person that makes a sin which brings him embarrassment. And I'll read the language. And Rabbi Bar Chanina, the elder, said in the name of Rav, anyone who commits a sin and is embarrassed of it is forgiven for all of his sins, as it is stated by the prophet Yechezkel, chapter 16, verse 63. In order that you remember and be ashamed, and so that you no longer have an excuse because of your humiliations, when I forgive you for all that you have done, the word of Hashem God. Here the Gemara tells us outright, you made a sin, part of the cure is embarrassment. Part of the cure is embarrassment. Sometimes people come to me and they say, listen, I stole some money, I stole something a long time ago. Okay, give it back. Well, listen, if I give it back, then it's going to be embarrassing because it's my father-in-law, because it's my partner, because it's this clerk, or this or this that. Is there any way, can I just give it to Kiruv? If the person is alive and you have access to them, you have to give it back to them. Donating the money in their name is not going to be sufficient. The only time that you could donate money to a public cause like Kiruv as a form of Teshuvah, as a form of tikkun for stolen money, is if either the source of where you stole it from is no longer available, either they died, or if it's a company, it's bankrupt, it's gone, or the person is nowhere to be found. You have no idea where they are. You've tried locating them. You don't know where they are. Or if giving the money back could cause you legal problems, meaning you stole from XYZ company, and you know that this company has a very, very strict policy that if you return the money, let's say it's the government, you call the government, hi, Mr. Government, Mr. Trump, listen, I have good news and bad news. Okay. The good news is there's an extra $500,000 I need to send to the government. Okay, what's the bad news? I stole the money from the government. That's why I'm giving it back. Well, it's very possible that maybe Mr. Trump, he'll say, no problem, give it back, no problem, we're good. But it may be possible that Mr. Trump or anybody else will say, listen, bring it back. The second you come there with the check, okay, the check clears, okay, you're under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. Everything you say will be held against you. Whoa, I gave back the money. Yeah, you gave back the money. You stole. So if that's the case, and there's a possible legal problem, then you don't have to give it back. You could donate the money in essence, for their benefit. But if that's not a reality, if it's your uncle, your friend, your brother, your father, your mother, or somebody else you took the money from, and the only problem is once you give it back to them, you'll be embarrassed. Habibi, that's the point. That's the cure. That's what you need. You need the embarrassment. In fact, the Nodab Yehuda Kama in Orach Chaim Siman 35 has a Teshuvah. A man came to the Nodab Yehuda and told him that he made a horrible sin. What sin? He committed adultery with his mother-in-law. Shem Yishmo V'Yatzil. The Nodab Yehuda says, okay, part of your cure is go tell your father-in-law what you did. Whoa, the embarrassment. Ay, not enough you made the sin now. I have to tell the father-in-law? Yeah, go tell the father-in-law, Habibi. That's embarrassing. Exactly. That's the cure. That's the cure. You need that cure. You need the embarrassment. No, but I don't want to be embarrassed. Oh, so you don't want to do Teshuvah. Why? You're protecting your ego. No, but that's going to break me. Perfect. Yeah, that's it. You got to break that ego, that klipa that you have, that caused you to sin in the first place, to think that anything belongs to you, including somebody else's wife. Rabbi Zusha of Hanipol, who was the brother of Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhenk, was asked one time, he had Ruach HaKodesh, Tzaddik, Kadosh. So Rabbi Zusha, you have seen into the soul of Adam HaRishon. How did you let him sin? Rabbi Zusha says, let him sin? I helped him sin. What? The rabbi helped him sin? Yeah, I helped him sin. Why? I saw that the Nachash, the serpent, told him that, listen, the reason why God doesn't want you to eat from the tree of knowledge is because once you eat from the tree of knowledge, you're going to be like him. So I thought to myself, wait, is it better that he continues to think this stupidity, that Hashem needs him, that Hashem he's going to be like Hashem, and all types of other heretical thoughts, or let him just eat the fruit and then get all the curses and the punishment that comes with it? I said, you know what? It's better that he eats it and gets punished than continue to live with kfira in his heart, with heresy in his heart. So I helped him. Why? Because Rabbi Zusha of Hanipol, he wanted to make sure that there's only kosher things in your mind, and sometimes the ego that you have makes you think that you're much more than what you really are. But of course, Rabbi Zusha was saying to all of his community, not just the things that they want to hear. He told them the things that they need to hear. But when he knew that there's an ego that's in the way, he would work with that ego. How so? Person would come to the kehillah full of sins, full of filth. But he doesn't want to admit it. Why? It's going to embarrass him. It's an embarrassment to say what happened, what he did. He looks religious. He's got a beard, kapeyot, he's a benefactor of the community. He doesn't want to tell people that he's a sinner. No, ma pitom. But Rabbi Zusha had Ruach HaKodesh. Rabbi Zusha had an understanding of what's going on here. So what would he do? Rabbi Zusha would say, ay, 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 Zusha, what did you do? What did you do, Zusha? You're mechalel Shabbat. Why did you violate the Shabbat? Why? Why you violate Shabbat? You light a cigarette on Shabbat, Zusha? Why? And the guy's hearing this. Like, what, the rabbi is violating Shabbat? Well, I also smoked a cigarette on Shabbat, and he smoked a cigarette on Shabbat? Ay, 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 Zusha. Then as soon as you heard somebody coming in, you turned off the cigarette. Ay, 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 Zusha, that's another sin. Ay, Zusha, why did you turn off the cigarette? It's another sin. You know how many years you're gonna be in Gehenom for that? That happened to me. The guy's thinking, that happened to me. And then after that, Zusha, you thought that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was not watching because your wife was not watching. You thought HaKadosh Baruch Hu was not watching either. So you lied to her and you told her you were gonna go out to the synagogue, but you didn't go to the synagogue. You went and you made some sins. You made some sins with some other lady. And you thought that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't watch. Because your wife doesn't watch. Why did you do that, Zusha? Why did you do that? You know how many years in Gehenom you're going to get burned. You know how many years in Gehenom they're going to rip you up to pieces. Ay. Zusha, why did you do that? And the guy's like, why does he know all this stuff? Rabbi Zusha would say all the things the guy just did in the last week. He violated this, he did this, he did that, he stole there, he stole this. And the guy's like, oh, Rabbi, listen. I don't know what's happening, but why'd you do all those things? You okay? And the rabbi says, no, why? What are you talking about? No, to Zusha. Zusha also stole from his business partner. Oh, Zusha stole from his business partner. Why did you steal from your business partner on Tuesday? He thought he's going to use the money to buy a house, but you used it to go gamble. Why did you do that, Zusha? And the guy is hearing every sin that he made every day of the week. And Rabbi Zusha is saying it as if he did it because the neshama of the tzaddik is like the neshama of Am Yisrael. But at the same token, Rabbi Zusha knew that once the person hears what he did, the ego will be broken. And eventually the person says, I'm sorry, please, Rabbi, help me do Teshuvah. Help me do Teshuvah. Yes, I did all those things. And the guy would start crying hysterical and do Teshuvah. Unfortunately, Rabotai Karim, today, we don't have Rabbi Zusha. But we do have the sins. We do have the problems. And unless a person is willing to destroy their ego and allow embarrassment into their life as a form of healing, Teshuvah is never going to be complete. There's always going to be a portion of it that's still there. It's always still there. Always still there, Rabotai. I had a guy come to me, tell me, listen, I feel terrible. My girlfriend left me. Not only she left me, but she embarrassed me on the way out. She said all types of things about me that are not true. What should I do, Rabbi? Now, if I was a puppet rabbi that is dependent on people's opinions, I tell them, listen, I'm sorry to hear. Bezrat Hashem, better luck next time. But because I want to genuinely help this person, I told him, listen, although I'm sorry to hear that this happened to you, the reality is, you did it to yourself. You were with her in a forbidden relationship, and you knew it's forbidden, but you did it anyway. So that means that there's no, I didn't know. And there's going to be no blessing in such a relationship. So how can you possibly expect a blessed relationship with such actions? Do better next time. Date a woman without intimacy. Few times. You want to be together. Get married first. That's it. What's the problem? If you want to have a blessing from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have to go in the way of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hopefully, this not only reaches his ear, but also his heart. And he realizes this is the right way. But when a person is not willing to accept the truth, then unfortunately there's no way that you can help him. Many times, you tell people the truth, they run away from you. Why? They're looking for somebody to lick their wounds. They don't want embarrassment. But they don't realize that the embarrassment is part of the cure. It's like the bitter taste in medicine. And interestingly enough, it's not that they're completely against embarrassment. Because there's no end to the amount of people that publicize their problems in the online, whether it be on Facebook or on Reddit, and all other types of websites where people talk about, they have all types of questions. Sometimes it's technical questions, financial questions, and sometimes it's embarrassing issues. Listen, I have this thing that happened with my wife or my husband, and what do you think? And then you see 50,000 comments. They have no problems. They have no qualms about publicizing their most shameful things. No problems. But when it comes to telling those things to the right audience, whether it be their spiritual mentor, their guide to the truth, or to the place where it's going to be part of the cure itself, bringing embarrassment where it actually matters, no, I don't want to embarrass myself. Yeah, but you didn't have a problem publicizing the garbage that you did on Facebook. You didn't have the problem publicizing the garbage on Reddit, on Twitter, on X, on whatever, on Genom, or whatever it is. You publicize it everywhere else. Here you have a problem. Here you have a problem. What do we know from there? It's Yetzer. Yetzer. And the Yetzer, Rabotai Karim, has been playing us, not just today, not just yesterday. The Yetzer has been playing us for many, many years. As the prophet Isaiah says in chapter 59, the Am Yisrael that's crying, oh, yeah, how come we're still in war over 500 days later? How come we're still in war? How come we're still being tormented by these evil terrorists, by these evil places, these evil leaders? How come? How come? Oh, our prayers don't matter, Hashem. You're not listening to us. You don't hear our prayers. Says the prophet Isaiah in chapter 59, verse number 1 and on. Surely the hand of Hashem is not too limited to save, nor is his ear heavy, preventing him from hearing. Rather, your iniquities have separated between you and your God, and your transgressions have caused him to hide his countenance from you, from hearing you. For your palms are stained with blood, and your fingers with iniquity. Your lips speak falsehood, and your tongues utter wickedness. No one calls in righteousness, and no one is judged truthfully, trusting in emptiness and speaking vanity, conceiving wrongdoing and giving birth to wickedness. Here, the prophet tells us exactly what we're dealing with today, because the Gemara in Masechet Berachos says that any prophecy that's written in the Torah, in the Tanakh, is not only a prophecy that was relevant to the day that it said, but also a prophecy that's relevant to every single day forever, until Mashiach comes, and for eternity. So now, what is he saying over here? First and foremost, he's saying, surely the hand of Hashem is not too limited. And Rashi says, what does that mean? It's not that you have not been redeemed from the exile because God lacks the strength to do so, as implied by your complaints that you're fasting in vain or praying without him answering. It's not his ability that is deficient. Rather, it's your sins that build a barrier between you and God that makes it seem as if he does not hear your prayers. Because the problem is that a person that's smeared with sin is shaped by his desires and activities, and therefore he has no common dialogue with someone who lives in the world of holiness. When a person has filthy deeds, they think that everyone else is filthy too. A person that's a thief thinks that everybody else is a thief. A person that's a liar thinks that everybody else is a liar. A person that's a cheater thinks that his spouse is cheating on him too. And therefore, when such a person prays to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and does not get an answer, he thinks there's something wrong with God too. And the prophet says, and your transgressions have caused Hashem to hide. Meaning, just like a person who doesn't want to hear from somebody stays away from them, God covers his face and ears, ignoring the insincere prayer. Why is it insincere prayer? If you're praying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu without doing Teshuvah, without repenting for your sins, the prayer is worthless. Worthless. If you have not done Teshuvah, the prayer is worthless. Just like the Rambam Paskins La'alacha in regards to Yom Kippur. If you have not done Teshuvah, you did not repent before Yom Kippur, fasting is simply a diet. It's not really a mitzvah. If you're still planning on driving on Shabbat after Yom Kippur, that means that your fast is worthless. You'll get punished for everything, including the fast. This is why a person has to understand that Teshuvah, changing your actions, is the basic minimum requirement in order to have a Kadosh Baruch Hu answer your prayers and change the path that you're on. And when there's embarrassment in that Teshuvah, welcome that embarrassment. Why? Hashem is the one that's custom making it for you, because that's part of the cure. Says, no, but maybe it's something else. Therefore, the Chachamim clarify. Only a sin can interfere with Am Yisrael's closeness to God. Because by definition, sins are a denial of His presence. Similarly, says the Baal Tanya, certain sins are so serious that they subject the sinner to karet, to spiritual excision, which means that the sinner's connection to God has been severed. Among those are sins of idolatry and sexual immorality. Now, what does that have to do with what the prophet actually says? Because the prophet said in verse number 3, for your palms are stained with blood and your fingers with iniquity, and your lips speak falsehood and your tongues utter wickedness. Says Rav Moshe Alshich alav shalom from the time of Rabbi Yosef Karo. He said, your palms are stained with blood because you wasted seed. Your fingers are full of iniquity because you stole in your business, your cash advance, your other horrible businesses that you did business in an inappropriate way. You've stolen money, you have wasting seed, and you come with those hands, opening up, please give me parnasah, please help me Hashem. Or you come with the mouth, the same mouth that the prophet says it speaks falsehood. You keep lying. Or the tongues that utter wickedness. You keep saying heretical things like God needs you, or all types of other heretical things. So the tools that you're using, says Rav Moshe Alshich, your mouth and your hands, that you're using them to be your defendants, to get Hashem to answer you, have turned into the prosecutors against you because they're full of sins. And then the prophet says, no one calls out in righteousness and no one is judged truthfully. This is because you go to false spiritual leaders who do not rebuke the people. You have a rabbi that tells you everything you're doing is perfect, even though he knows you're driving on Shabbat, even though you know you're in a corrupt business, even though he knows that you're cheating on your husband or you're cheating on your wife, even though he knows that you go to a casino and gamble, even though he knows, he says you're tzaddik, you're tzaddikah. Both of you are going to be in a similar type of genom with all the other tzaddikim like you. If you continue in this path, your spiritual leaders do not rebuke the people, says the Ibn Ezra. Your judges are unjust. It's like the so-called rabbis that have allowed all of these forbidden things as if they're allowed. The people make promises with no intention of keeping their words. They think no one will know that they're being dishonest, but God knows. And unfortunately, Rabotai, people keep crying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, empty tears, crocodile tears. Why? Because tears that do not accompany Teshuvah are simply a waste. A prayer that does not accompany Teshuvah is a wasted prayer. And therefore, says the prophet Isaiah in verse number 9, that's why justice has become distant from us, and righteousness has not reached us. We hope for light, but behold, there's darkness. For brightness, we walk in deep darkness. What does this mean? Say the Chachamim. Rashi begins by saying, although we cried out to Hashem to save us from our enemies, from the Hamas, from the Hezbollah, from the Amaleks, we keep praying to Hashem to help us, but every day some other Jew is murdered in cold blood, whether it be in Israel or it be in America or anywhere else in the world. Every day there's a new report of innocent blood being spilled and nothing being done about it. Why? Hashem does not punish our oppressors because we haven't done Teshuvah. Because the Jewish people are not being just among themselves, says the Marikara. So what right do we have to complain about foreign oppressors? Measure for measure. If we continue being corrupt to each other, lying to each other, lashon hara about each other, sinat chinam about each other, what right do we have to complain about the oppressors that Hashem is sending to punish us? In so many words, Rabotai Karim, the stick that Hashem is hitting us with is being fueled by our own misactions. And so long as we delude ourselves to think that we do not have to do Teshuvah, we do not have to nullify ourselves to Da'at Torah, we do not have to change and improve ourselves. We're good enough. Somebody else needs to change. Let's worry about the secular people. Habibi, look into the mirror and sometimes see yourself as maybe that person that's secular, because you haven't done enough Teshuvah. If you haven't done some Teshuvah today for something, what's the difference between you and the secular person? Every single person that I know that's a tzaddik does Teshuvah every day for something. David HaMelech was scared to death of any judgment. Can you even imagine being tzaddik like the ground that David HaMelech walked on? He was scared to death of sins. But people today walk around like, do whatever they want. Rabotai Karim, the Tzetel Katan is telling us here advice that could literally change not just our lives, but literally our entire nation, our entire eternity. He's telling us this spiritual mentor, this trusted friend, this is a person that we do not only want, we need. We don't only need, we want. Why? Because this is part of our Teshuvah. To have somebody that's going to give us the direction to go. Hence the reason why he calls this amazingly effective practice. And he's not even saying this whole thing is about maybe you'll get some good advice. Only at the end he says maybe you also get some good advice to follow God's ways. But the biggest benefit is someone that you could simply tell, I did all of these things, tell me what to do, what's the cure? The extra guidance, what job to take, what job not to take, who to marry, who not to marry, that's the extra bonus. But if you could simply tell me what to do with these filthy sins that I've done, that's already the greatest possible thing that you can do for yourself. But Rabotai, the only way it works is if a person begins with the right mindset by nullifying themselves before they even say a word. Meaning, whatever he says, I'm going to do. If you have not gotten yourself to that point, then you have a lot of work to do because you are still spiritually sick. And I can admit, we're all spiritually sick to a certain extent. But if you want to be on the path of the cure, it begins with nullifying yourself and getting that spiritual guide that's going to get you that cure. Once we do that, Rabotai, every mitzvah that we do can change the outcome of our lives and the entire nation. As the Mishnah in Masechet Avot says, a Jew that does a mitzvah should view it as if he just took all of Am Yisrael on the positive end. And a Jew that made a sin should look at it as if he took all of Am Yisrael to the negative end. Every mitzvah can change something. Every mitzvah can change a life, including your own, including saving a life. If we want to stop all of the problems that we're all suffering from, it begins with doing Teshuvah. And Teshuvah is more than just keeping some mitzvot that you like. Teshuvah is also keeping the rest of the Torah, which stands on fixing our character traits. When we do that, we can be assured that we are all on the path of Hashem. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we will all succeed and getting on that path, staying on that path, and getting others to join us. Thank you very much for learning with me. May Hashem bless each and every single one of you, especially those that take this to heart and apply it to their lives. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we succeed to spread this message all over the world, no less than how the idolaters of the world are spreading the Super Bowl and all the other nonsense of the world. Be'ezrat Hashem will spread the truth around the world. Every single person should take upon themselves to share this with at least 10 people that they know, to make sure that they help us do what we're doing, to donate, just like you would pay for tickets to a film, lehavdil, for groceries, for different things. This food for your neshama is no less. Help, support, donate. You can do it on our website, you can do it on YouTube, you can do it in a lot of different places. There's no shortage of ways to help, because the need is there for more people to hear the word of Hashem, And there's unfortunately not enough voices out there. If a young Jew from Germany can be saved by a simple, short clip, imagine how many more Jews we can save with these longer shiurim, with the films, with all of the other things that Baruch Hashem we're doing. Help, support, partner with us, and Be'ezrat Hashem will succeed in getting this message in every corner of the world. Wherever there's a precious neshama, the Torah is going to be there to save it. Thank you very much. Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll learn again soon. Kol Tuv.
I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend. We did it. AI Rabbi is here. It's an AI model that is based on kosher Torah sources, 30 different languages that are available to you. So if you want to ask it in Spanish, in Chinese, Portuguese, whatever you want to do, it's available for you. Can you tell me about Rabbi Akiva? So it's timestamped to the shiur. You press this green button, AI Rabbi on your WhatsApp. You'll have the ability to ask questions at will. You'll be provided sources, and most importantly, you'll be able to know the truth and be able to rely on the sources.